Welcome to the 100th episode of Nice and Sunny, the podcast. I do have some really exciting guests today. It's the three lovely people from the Global Convoy, and they had this amazing adventure of traveling around the world in a really cheap car, and on the way just like picking up everybody who came along, and had this a convoy in the end, and they managed to drive all around the world in a car that basically cost 75 British pounds. So absolutely amazing story, and I'm really happy to have these guys as a guest in this podcast. And yeah, it's the 100th podcast episode, and I'm hoping from now on to try and get more guests, and because I meet a lot of interesting people while traveling, which is obviously one of the beauties when you're traveling a lot, that you meet a lot of interesting people. So I'm going to try and get more of them in front of the camera and have conversations with them. But until then, enjoy this one with the Global Convoy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Global Convoy. Nice that you're my guest for my 100th episode of my Nice and Sunny podcast.
Oh, what a privilege. Oh, that's really awesome. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
100 episodes, man.
I only randomly realized that it will be the 100th that you guys are in. So I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
It's like exactly like having like a very special episode. I rarely have guests on it, and I really want to do this more often, and having you guys here is just like the perfect like signal for
set the bar nice and low for everyone else.
Would be great. And so everybody who's listening to the podcast right now, this is also a video, so you can find it on my YouTube channel, of course. But let's welcome my guests. First of all, would you mind introducing yourself just for very briefly?
Sure. My name is Joel.
I'm Becca.
I'm Max, and we are the Global Convoy.
Woohoo!
And do you want the whole intro? It's normally a thing we do out of like habit, but
No, do it.
we met for the first time all together on the 7th of August in 2016, and the next day we got into a £75 car and tried to drive around the world. It took us a year. There were a million ups and downs, but at the end of it, we all kind of come up with this shared goal, which was let's try and help other people do the same thing we did and make the world as good a place as we can.
And now we have a small alternative travel business, which is also called the Global Convoy.
Perfect. We're definitely gonna get into that later as well. But I was just thinking, like, everybody loves an origin story. So like we know, like you at some point met, and then did this whole big adventure. But where did you guys come from and got together in the first place?
Oh, who wants to start?
Well, I guess you two kind of met through me, so I'll go first. So I was at IBM. I've been working there for a couple of years, and it was really good, but I just wanted some adventure in my life. And I heard of something called the Mongol Rally, which is where you buy a terrible car and try and drive it from London to Mongolia. And at the end of that, everyone that I met was like, "Oh, that was so good, let's go home now." And I was like, "No, I need more." So then I put out on Facebook, the whole world driving I don't know what, like let's see what happens, who's in. And I hadn't spoken to you in 8
Like
years?
6 or something years.
And like we used to go to house parties together. Like we didn't even go to the same school, but we just
No.
knew of each other. And then Becca reached out and was like, "Yep, I'm in. This is a great time for me." And then on that trip, I met a Portuguese guy who then moved to Amsterdam to save money. And
I just happened to be backpacking through Amsterdam, and I was at the Flying Pig hostel, which is quite a popular one there, and ended up meeting Andre, and he kept talking about, he wanted to do this trip, and he kind of was like, "Oh, you should buy this, Nissan Micra with me," or whatever. It very much seemed like a scam at the beginning, and then finally, slowly but surely, he like talked me into it, and it sounded really, really cool. So I kind of was like, "Yeah, okay, let's find, get into this a little bit further." And
at 3 a.m. I got a very drunken message.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. But yeah, no, I was actually in Berlin, and because I kind of had like told Andre I'd be interested, but we'll figure it out. And I kind of carried on my travels at that point, and then Max actually gave me a call and was like, "If you're interested, I'm going to be in Amsterdam soon," thinking that it was still there. And I was like, "Well, it costs like nothing to take the megabus to head back down," so went with Max there, and from that point, I was like, okay, on the trip.
Okay, so how long did it take from that moment to actually buy the car and get going?
So we
already had the
Max
Skoda,
was
right?
like posting online from maybe December 2015,
Yeah,
and then I think around January, February 2016, I was like, I know I'm going to finish uni in June, so that's like a good time for me to embark on an adventure because I don't want to get stuck in a teaching career. So I think we started looking for a car in like April.
Yeah,
maybe?
we definitely started much later than you should for something going around the world. And I think we bought it a few days or maybe even a week before I tried to drive it to Amsterdam to see Joel. But the funny thing was, it was literally the cheapest we could find on Gumtree, and it was £120. And we were umming and ahhing about it for so long that by the time we called up, she'd actually lowered it to £75. I was like, please take this car away. It doesn't even start. Just get rid of it. And yeah, that's... So yeah, we very, very close before we left, we had just about figured out how to start the car. And sometimes it didn't work, but...
Yeah, it's one of my questions. Like, did you guys have any background in like fixing cars? Because
No.
just watching the documentary is like
we had
so much broken on.
Yeah, we had Haynes manuals, which honestly, that's the only reason why we were able to survive. I think through it was, every single time there was something that would break down, we were able to kind of flip through, and either it was one of two answers. Either it's like, okay, there's some way that we'll be able to fix it, but we're just gonna have to focus the next couple hours onto it, or we definitely cannot fix it, so we need to take it to a shop.
And then I guess because the cars were so old, like, because it wasn't just a £75 car, we had other friends with their cars coming and going the whole time, but everyone was on a majorly strict budget, so it was the worst cars possible. But that meant they were old and they were simple, and like the local mechanics could fix it with literally duct tape and string and like...
Well, and then also we didn't have a lot of caring for the cars, because it was like the two cars that finished was the Skoda, and then there was also a Nissan Micra, and literally we just didn't care at all about, as long as it could be fixed, we were like, yeah, great, go for it, kind of thing. Whereas I feel like a lot of people would be a little picky about, they'd be worried about something happening to it or whatever. Whereas we're like, hey, if it runs, like we're
How
game.
often did it stop you in your tracks, like the car issues? Because it looked just from, because I know it's obviously edited, so I don't know how much.
Yeah, no, pretty often. To be fair, I think I don't know. I don't want to say every other day, but like...
I think there was some sort of car-related issue every other day. Whether it was that we ran out of fuel or
not enough space.
Tires.
Yeah.
Tires went out lots.
Yeah, tires going. Yeah, lots of kind of small things.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that was great about having the older cars is we really found that the further you get away from Europe, the more creative people are with fixing things.
Used to that,
Yeah, exactly. Which I think, like, because we had a car we didn't really care about, we were quite happy for it as long as it worked. Fix it.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually quite eye-opening to see that actually if something's broken, it can be fixed in some way. You don't necessarily have to get the exact part from the manufacturer or whatever. And
well, that's what's crazy is because you had a Mini in the UK before we started, and tell me if I've got this wrong, but if you like break a light bulb, you have to like remove the entire front of the car to reach it or something, or they make it very hard to fix cars yourself, so you have to go to their garage and pay them for the service. Whereas we're in Belize, and there was a fuse that wasn't even made anymore because I think it came from Czechoslovakia originally. And so the guy was like, well, this isn't going to be found in the Belizean jungle. So he drilled a hole through our dashboard, put some wires in, and gave us a start button. So like to turn the car on, we have to hold down the button for 10 seconds. Then we can turn the car on.
And I feel like most people would be like, kind of like, oh my god, I can't believe you just buzzed it. But we were just like, awesome! Like, we have an ignition switch now? That's amazing! But no, we had another instance that wasn't in the film because we just didn't have time to kind of like go over it. But it was a big thing for me. Like, obviously a lot of people going to like Central Asian spots would think, oh, you have to have a 4x4 and like a really hardcore overlanding vehicle. And actually our mistaken advantage was, when we lost tires like crazy. There's so many potholes and crazy divots everywhere. But I mean, to replace them, it would cost us what, like maybe 20 euros max. And that's like expensive, so I mean, we were replacing tires for like 6 to 12 euros on average. And then we had this, we were at this bunkhouse one night in Kiva, I think.
In Uzbekistan.
In Uzbekistan, yeah. And there was a guy that was also staying there, and he had this really nice Toyota Land Cruiser, properly made for it. And he lost a tire, and it was going to cost him 600 euros to get it replaced. and we were all there like, Jesus, you know.
Literally buy 8 cars.
Oh yeah. You know, so it kind of was one of those things we never expected to be a massive advantage. But financially, you know, it just made all the difference in the world.
I was just like, once you were in South America, I was like, when I saw the car, I was like, hang on, they're shipping it to Hamburg. They will never be able to drive it in Hamburg. And then, and then the whole story actually went there. The Germans would not allow a car like that on the road.
No, it was definitely a struggle. We were battling that one out for several weeks, and then even when we were physically there, it still took an entire day.
There was the biggest thing that like drove me mad, like as with everything in the kind of bureaucracy. It's like we'd been like dragging it through deserts and like snowy mountains and jungles, and then it was a guy with a clipboard was our biggest obstacle, and he was like, oh, okay, well we finally cleared everything, and that took weeks. It was such a mission, and again we didn't have time to explain it fully, but we hadn't been told they'd arrived, I think it was, and so they'd been sitting there. And they have like, I think it's a week or 2 you get for free. And after that they start charging you €1,000 per ton per day.
So like an insane amount. Like
we were about to become severely bankrupt more than we already were. And so we got there, we'd done everything, and then as we were about to leave, the guy's like, oh, actually on this thing it says you had 5 bags and there's actually 6 in the car, so I'm afraid you can't take all 6.
Well, we didn't even really have like bags. Like all of the stuff was just kind of strewn like across the car, and then we also had a roof box that was on top that was just filled with shit. Yeah. Like there was no real bags that went for it. I think somebody just kind of filled it out and was like, yeah, that'll be fine.
But then he was okay once we like rearranged one bag into another bag, and then it's like, is that 5 bags? Like, sure, tick. And I get he was just doing his job, but like the system just. Oh, it was painful. It worked out, so we're very happy, but like, damn, that was like frustrating. But
after all that, Germany.
Well, no, we ended up getting really lucky. The guy really helped us out in the end. I mean, it was really painful, but he ended up kind of, surprisingly for Germany, he ended up kind of looking the other way because we had all this stuff, and we ended up starting to chuck some of it in the dumpster, you know, because we just had to figure out how to break everything down into certain bags. And eventually got to the point where we're just like, you know, we really don't want to leave this. I mean, it was like stoves and like really nice camping equipment, and then like a lot of our personal stuff and like clothes.
Oh, yeah,
and
like
things.
Gifts we got from people around the world.
Yeah, gifts from around the world, and then.
I think as well when we left South America, we'd said like to everyone, put what you want in the cars because they're going back to Europe.
Yeah,
and then you don't have to worry about luggage.
So we're having to call these people and be like, hey, you might not get your stuff back. Kinda.
You're not like dear with your camera, are you?
Yeah.
You are? Oh, shit.
But after a really long time of us really umming and ahhing and just kind of being, I'm sure we were being complete pains in the ass, he was just kind of like, okay, well, you know, like you have to put everything in these bags. Whatever's in the container, I don't really know about. So if you just come through and check through the bags, and you just happen to pass by the container on your way out, I don't know anything about it, kind of thing. And so it was super illegal. But yeah, we ended up going through, picking up most of our stuff again because we just left the rest inside the container. Went back, grabbed that, and then when we got to because everything was sealed until we got back to the UK was where we had to declare it. But when you get off the ferry in the UK, you have to drive like a couple miles or something like that, or a couple kilometers till you get to actual customs things. So you're like already in the UK. So we went to a gas station and just dumped off all the stuff that wasn't like registered, and we just sat in the parking lot for a while. Went through with the 5 bags, and so
Oh, amazing!
So they were really we got very lucky as far as I think some other people.
Where are the cars now? What happened to the?
Well, the Nissan Micra is still in use, and that's in Devon, and then the Skoda Felicia is in Sussex.
Yeah.
So they're still driving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Skoda hasn't driven. I don't think either have driven in a while, but they both still start and can go. And like we were really hoping, because the whole plan was to do 5 continents was our goal, and Antarctica and Asia and Australia, were just too hard in terms of costs. But Africa was quite reasonable until we got to Brazil and we're like out of money. So we had to miss Africa, and it's always been like a dream to take the Skoda back down to Africa, even just to like the edge of Morocco. Just to, like, we did it. And we were supposed to like kit it out, clean it up, get it ready, and take it in 2020, and then COVID.
So are you still gonna go for it then?
We have other plans first, but it's still on the list. Like we're so keen to get that done, just because it's just been sitting on a driveway for like years. Occasionally a photo shoot, occasionally like just checking it runs, but like
an old rock star.
kind of, it needs its final tour, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's comeback tour, and then it can be sold or scrapped, or just be like put to bed, like having done its like dream mission. But hopefully.
Yeah, amazing. You were saying like running out of money basically in Brazil was actually one of the questions I wrote. Do you have any feeling of how much that costs, like that around the globe?
Yeah. For me personally, it was a little under 10,000 US, and that was like just pulled through savings and whatnot that I had throughout the last couple of years. But for everybody, it was really different. Like it varied.
Mine was about 8,000.
Yeah.
I feel like you were somewhere in between.
I think
right?
I like
mine was like
drink
11.
and eat too much, and then also we went on a couple of different tours and whatnot.
Right. So
Whereas,
mainly for food and tours.
yeah,
the
we didn't do
car
a lot of tours, to be fair. Like
And the
we
ones
tried
we
to
did,
hold
we were
off.
like, hey, we don't have money for this tour. We'll film it for you though. And
Yeah.
make you a video. Can we do it for free?
Yeah, that was the majority of tours
I'm
that we got
writing
on.
reviews.
But that includes the shipping,
Oh,
which
that's
was the most
everything,
expensive
like-
part of it.
Right.
Like,
Shipping was about
Container
$4,000 or
shipping.
$5,000.
Yeah.
So
Per
turn
person.
10,000 into 5,000. That's how much you spent for an entire year buying the cars, repairing the cars, visas, bribes,
Accommodation.
food, fuel, accommodation,
flights.
everything. And it's like when we kind of looked at it, like coming back, I was going through the spreadsheet. I was like, this can't be right. And like
Yeah.
3 times, like,
yeah, we had to double check it a
and
couple
then checked our
times.
accounts. Of like, well, we've spent loads of money, but like for what we did, damn. But yeah, a good deal is still money spent. So that's why we had to kind of jump right back on the job train once we got back.
Yeah, and I was thinking because like I'm definitely not made for any of that, so I'm just glad, I'm just glad that you guys
Not
did
many
it.
people are.
Because it's but that's the thing. Like some people say to me, "Oh, you're minimalist." Like I could never do that, and I said, "Of course you could," but then of course some people can't do that. But they enjoy seeing this kind of life being lived. So like when I saw your journey, I was like, "This is great," and it's documented, so I can actually like live through it. But I could never actually do it myself. I would be so upset all the time. Especially the car wouldn't work. It's like no, can't do that. But yeah, amazing.
That was the best parts, though. I think for us, like, was when the cars would like constantly break down. I felt like that was such a team building like event that constantly would happen again and again.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was definitely times where it would get like really exhausting, like, and just really aggravating and frustrating. But I do think that when I don't know, that's kind of one of the best parts of all the trips that we've ever done. Like even after the round the world trip and the trips that we've done back to like Central Asia and whatnot, it's almost more of an adventure when the cars break down. You have to sort that out, especially with like a large group of people, and figure out what's wrong, like how to put it together.
Who's
It's not
going
just
where? Who has supplies? Like,
Yeah.
who has food? How long will be stuck here? I think that's something you can't normally buy.
it's the ultimate team
Yeah.
building exercise.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's the stories, right? So if everything just goes right, that's just
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
you could drive there, and then what happened? Oh, we drove there.
yeah, exactly.
Or
And then also like it's kind of one of those you get to piggyback off of each other's like energy. Like I'll never forget when we were on we deemed this road Fury Road, and we were on it for we were supposed to be on it for
Kazakhstan.
12 hours, and we were on it for 3 days. Like, and it's in the middle of the desert. Like it's just flat 360 view. There's absolutely nothing there, and we'd had this massive breakdown. Luckily, we were able to get it fixed. But then when we were back on the road, like it started raining, and it was just mud everywhere, and the cars were sliding, and there was like potholes the size of like the Micra itself. Like just massive. And so we had to get off the road, and we were just in the mud, and every like 5 to 10 minutes the cars would get stuck and we had to jump out, and we were all completely covered in mud, like super soaked.
This was
And
in the middle of the night. as
yeah, in
well.
the middle of the
Yeah.
night, and we're all like really exhausted, and we all got out of the car to push, and like we were just not getting it out there, and everybody was just kind of like taking a breath, and then Becca like turned around and was like, look, and like we all look over, and she's got this tiny little frog, and she's like, it's a frog, like, and everybody like at that moment I feel like everybody was kind of like, this isn't so bad, like, all right, yeah, let's get back on it. And I mean, we kissed the pavement when we finally got back to it at the end. But like, yeah, it's great having the other people around. I mean, if it was just like two of us trying to do it, I don't think it would have worked.
And how was it with conflicts? It's like being like and having so many issues and being in such close proximity. Of course, it's like team building, but at the same time, was there a lot of like friction and?
You don't have a choice. You have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's another beauty of it. Like it's also, I don't know.
I think with the style of travel, like everyone gets a bit grumpy because you don't sleep very well, or you're sitting in a car for how many hours a day. But I think that whilst that makes people grumpy, it also forces people, like Joel said, to like talk about the problems. And I think that actually like that's the style of our trips brings people closer a lot quicker, because you have to get over that, and if you don't, then you have no choice other than to leave or to make it work.
Unless you want to be miserable in a car for the next like week before you can leave, you're gonna most likely try to figure out how you're gonna be able to work with this person to get there.
We also encourage people to swap around cars, so that if there is any kind of days where someone's just really annoying you,
because sometimes you do just need to get away from somebody, so it's always good to have at least two cars.
But this is always being said. I own only solo travel, so again for me, like just the thought of having one person with me is already freaking me out, because I can't do what I want to do. But like it's often said that if couples travel together, it's exactly what's happening. They're gonna like have some arguments.
Like a make or break kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. So either afterwards you split up after a trip like that, or you make up. And I think it's exactly. I mean, it's great because you have to sort it out in one way or another. So it's really exciting.
It's amazing how many. My opinion, I think you share this opinion, is like how many people we've had who'd be like, "Oh, can I speak to you? This guy did this and this and this." And we're like, "Oh man, you should probably tell them." And they're like, "What do you mean?" It's like, you should tell them how you feel about this. Be polite, but like then they'll know how you feel. And so many people, like young people, adults, like everything in between. Some people, and I'm not perfect at this myself, but never learn how to like resolve conflicts. And they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave, or I'm gonna go over there, or I'm not gonna ever go to that bar again because I had that bad person I met there." And it's like, I feel like being stuck in the car, surrounded by friends ideally, just forces you to overcome the first hurdle. And when you've done that first hurdle, it's kind of like a snowball effect. By the end, everyone's super open.
Yeah, I feel like it turns people into more of like instead of like people being upset with each other in like a public setting, it's more like a family style group where like brothers and sisters kind of thing. Like where if you're pissed at your sibling, most likely you're just gonna tell them immediately and be like, I hate you because of this, or like you're pissing me off because of this, whatever. Whereas like people who don't know each other that well, they're gonna be a lot more, they're gonna walk on eggshells a lot more, and that definitely like is people at the start, but then at the end of trips, like I've definitely seen that in a lot of people, and I feel like I've done that as well with other people, where it's like. It's like, if you piss me off, I'm going to tell you exactly what you're doing, and we'll both be grumpy about it, but then in 5 minutes we'll be like, okay, I'm sorry, that kind of thing, and you get over that really fairly quick. Me and Max had loads of those moments, I feel like, on the Around the World trip.
Many.
Yeah, it's a bit like the topic that we talked like privately, and also that I talked about in 2 episodes before on the podcast, is about giving feedback, right? So it's exactly this kind of, if you're happy with somebody, but it's even more important to say if you're not happy with something, and give the negative feedback so that people can actually figure out how they.
It's all about the communication, even without arguments, just when you're trying to sort things out, especially with broken down cars or just any kind of a stressful situation, like the better you can explain what it is that you're trying to do, and then also to recognize if you're not doing a great job at that. And I think that's one thing that we learned really quickly, and a lot of we try to kind of teach the people who come onto the trip is like, if you're not getting your angle across, like it's really important to step back and kind of be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm obviously not explaining myself well, not in a sarcastic pissy way, but like let me try and gear this so that you'll kind of see where I'm coming from that.
It's great to hear, like, in addition to just the experience of traveling around the world like that in such an adventure, all this experience of actually like social experiences and learnings. It's just like even almost feels like it's even more than the actual travel experiences.
Yeah, I think that's something. Sorry, I didn't want to.
I probably about to say the same thing.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the goal, because that's the thing. The trip itself, amazing, but it was the people we met and the changes in them and the changes in us that were kind of... Because, like, anyone can run a tour company, but when we came back, we didn't want to say, hey, we can drive people places, because anyone can do that. It's like, how do we give those experiences that changed us positively and, like, allow more people to do that? I think that's so far what we've been doing, and it seems to be working.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we, I guess, try to do. I guess we don't even really try to do, because a lot of it is by stepping back, it naturally happens. But I think there's so many things that just in daily life you don't really do. Like when you were asking if we have experience with cars. No, because we haven't trained to be a mechanic. And I feel like, particularly in the UK, and it's probably the same in a lot of places, you're not really encouraged to play or to experiment. It's just kind of like you pay someone else to do it or to figure it out for you. And I think when we try to get people on our trips, we try to get that like element of like encouraging people to have a go at doing something, or to like we have a loose plan for the trip, but we rarely book things because we like to go with the flow and see what happens, which I think forces people to make decisions of what they want to do. Yeah. But it's I think that flexibility, like sometimes I like to refer to us as instigators rather than guides, like leaders, because we're giving the situation or the environment for people to experiment and to grow and kind of, you know, learn different things.
I think there was one thing, we all started the around the world trip as like, you know, it was going to be an adventure kind of thing, but I think the ending of it, what we didn't really expect to have kind of coming out the other end was the kind of satisfaction of like building such a massive bond with all the people that we were on the trip with. And I feel like every single trip that we've had since then, like the majority of people that come on all of the trips, like we're very close with still, and like they're always, you know, once you've been through that kind of a scenario together, like you have something, you know, and then also we've gotten to watch a lot of people grow to a crazy extent, you know, people who were 18 when they came on the trip to, you know, 2 years later, like, you know, we're going back to college or uni or you know, getting the job that they really wanted to get that they just never really, you know, went for before. And it's cool. It's amazing to be able to watch people grow. It's very it's a lot more satisfying than I would have thought.
Therapy on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while we're at that, like with the community and so on, so you have been building like this community online as well. Tell me a little more about that.
Oh, I mean, it just kind of started from all the people that we had on the trips, just kind of growing up, and then also we were trying to promote it when we were doing the Around the World, and so a lot of people jumped on board, you know, for that because they thought it was, you know, cool what we were doing, and we're just trying to get kind of any support that we could at the time, and
yeah, I guess it was kind of, it obviously started with, hey, mum and dad, here's a Facebook page, you can keep up with what we're doing, and then that grew quite quickly, which is obviously super nice, but then seeing how well some people responded to the trip and how many people were like, oh, I wish I could have been there. And our honest answer was always like, well, if you can make it here, you can come. So then we were like, well, shall we do another trip? Shall we do another trip? And that's where we decided we needed to make more of an online way to communicate with people, help them help each other. And I guess this is as good a time as any. Like very recently, we've started an online forum on our website. So if you have some expertise in country X and someone wants to go there, they can have a conversation with you and you can get the advice directly. Because we never, as much as we're glad that we had very little help on our first trip, there's some problems which are fun to overcome, and it was like a team building experience. Some just sucked. Some were fundamentally categorically bad and we would never repeat them. Like, you know, getting bribed out of like $100, whereas like if we'd known how to handle it, nothing. Yeah. There was no team building, it was just bad.
There's no lessons to be learned at the end of it. It was just kind of,
yeah.
Like, wow, that just cost $100. Like,
and then like the amount of times we've been able to help people, or even like dealing with your first like illegal bribe. And to be clear for those listening, when the corrupt police force you into a bribe, not because you're doing something wrong. But yeah, like one time on the Mongol Rally, there was a Swedish guy who was like in the car with me, and he kind of guided me through the process, and I was really nervous up until that point. And then a year later, I was in a car kind of guiding Joel through the process. And a year later, Joel's in a different car guiding someone. And it's just spreading that knowledge of how to go and see more of the world and learn what you are capable of. And so the more people online can talk about that and get them out there, that's all we're really trying to facilitate. and so far so good.
Yeah.
Nice. And how are you reaching new members now at this time when you can't actually be on the road?
It's usually just through, well...
I guess we've had
Yeah.
a surge in the past year from our documentary being on Amazon. We've had a lot of people like and follow the page and message saying they've seen us on there.
I think that's mainly because everyone's like stuck indoors and wants to like,
Yeah.
casually travel.
I
I
guess
don't think anybody really would have watched the documentary if it wasn't for COVID, to be fair.
maybe a couple of people. I guess, yeah, online things. We've been doing a few, like, at the beginning of lockdown, we did a few, like, online events and stuff. I guess that's one thing that's been fantastic about coming here to Bansko is having access to a community where we can network and talk, because we've kind of been a bit shut off from that for the past year. So
Yeah.
it's just been growing online through
I mean, we
videos
don't advertise or anything. Basically, what I was trying to say was we don't really advertise. Like, we're not out there to make the most money. We need to make some money for like bills and food and stuff. But as long as we can keep promoting what you get from the trip and other people spread it through word of mouth, which is 90% of how it spreads, then we will still have people coming back to do trips, and that seems to be working for
So
now.
how are you doing money? By actually booking trips with people, or having people pay you to book trips for them? Or?
That was how we did it for the last couple of trips that we did.
Super quick, I might have misunderstood that, but we don't. We always are on. We take people with us. We never
Yeah.
plan
Yeah,
things
that's
and then
fine.
let them do it.
Hmm.
Like,
So, but how do you make money with the community?
Oh, we don't.
So basically just earning money in any other way to be
Yeah.
able to...
but that we're hoping that might change in the near future. But again, we don't want to put anyone off by saying, here's like a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
Pay us £500. Like we want it to be, pay us like a good amount of money because it is worth a lot. But we don't want that to ever be the barrier. So
It's one of the things, like, we get the most amazing people because we are extremely open, and then also we try to make it so it'll work within people's like time frames, you know. So whether you're quitting a job and starting another one and you have like a little bit of time in between, or you're just getting out of uni, or you're just about to start uni, we always try to make it super flexible so that pretty much it's open to everybody. It's accessible to everyone. Whereas if we were to start charging like crazy prices and, you know, I don't know, if we were to start doing it in lots of different ways, I think the people that we would get on the trips would change quite drastically. And so it's one of those we try to find. Yeah, we're still trying to find the balance of it. But
yeah, I think it's been an odd year because I guess 2020 was going to be the year that we would potentially
so
get
much
to like a
planned.
financially
Yeah.
stable level by running trips pretty much back to back and charging enough for that to kind of keep us afloat. So we started charging for our trips in 2019, but we haven't really had a experience to start like growing from that because that's what last year was going to be. So yeah, we will do other jobs and bits and bobs to keep us afloat, but yeah.
Right, and so the documentary is on Amazon, and that's the only way you can pay for it, or Vimeo as well, right?
yeah, Amazon and Vimeo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also now on our website, which I'm currently adding a way that people can rent it there because, as you explained yesterday, because we're not in the UK, you can't watch the UK version, and it's just a bit of a mission depending where you are in the world. We're sorry about that. It's Amazon. We don't know how it works. If you're in Japan, you're great for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason
So-
Japan works fine.
But yeah, that should be on our website, globalconvoy.com. There's a little drop down for documentary. How long till this goes up? Because if it's in a week, it should be...
Maybe next week.
Oh yeah, it'll be ready right now, guys. Don't hold me to that. I'm very busy.
Awesome. Okay, so and what is the plan now for Global Convoy? Are you guys, like the three of you, always going to travel together, or like how is the next couple of months looking for you?
I'm going to leave in 2 days.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we're
guess-
still working on it for the most part.
It's difficult to really know what to plan right now because of COVID. We've already had to cancel
Like,
5 or so
yeah.
trips. You know, because we have that hope of like everything will be fine in 2 months. Get things ready. It's not fine. So I think we're probably just going to take it easy in terms of convoy like trips for now until September, when we're hoping to go on the Lanka Challenge, which is a tuk-tuk trip organised by a company called Large Minority. They've invited us to collaborate with them, and we're inviting anyone to come and join us on this amazing tuk-tuk trip across Sri Lanka. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, that will go ahead in September. That's our next kind of
That's the
trip,
next thing
I
that's
guess.
on the books.
And that's actually might be more up your street because it's normally we're like sleep in the car, sleep on the ground, whereas this is a Experience Sri Lanka, but they've got all the accommodation and like dinners and stuff planned ahead. And whilst it's all the adventure of a trip we would do, but with those comforts at the end of the day. So if you're like want to get into adventure rather than going in at the deep end, this might be a good thing for that. And that's also on our website. So it's
Nice, yeah.
it's all on the website somewhere.
I have plans, but like everybody who's watching or listening, like this might be a really good opportunity to get into it. That's actually everything I had on my list as for questions. Is there anything else you want to tell my community, the nice and sunny community?
No, just obviously you don't have to travel or do the kind of stuff that we do because I think it's a bit extreme. But I think it's you have to find your own whether it's solo travel or group travel. There's pros and cons to each. I think actually a balance of both is pretty awesome because I used to solo travel a lot. But yeah, you just have to try in order to find it, and you don't get what you don't ask for, kind of.
Yeah, push your boundaries sometimes because I think that's something. It's very easy. Like even here, I feel like we've got very comfortable, and that's good. You need some rest. You need some respite sometimes. But don't forget to just go and do something crazy once in a while, just to remind yourself quite what you're capable of.
Perfect.